In this assignment, I'm asking you to do a variety of things using a given data set. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate some of those things that you have to do with this example data set. Watch the video while you're doing your homework. You can just stop it and start it as you need to. The data set we're using is all of the U.S. presidents listed with their age and height. So let's get started. I'm asking you all to create a frequency distribution. So let's look at the frequency distribution for age. This, of course, will be in table format. Now, the first thing you normally do is determine how many frequency intervals or classes that you should use. Typically, you use at least 5, and for extremely large databases, you could have many more. I actually told you to use 5. This is a small data set. Each class should be equal and mutually exclusive, as well as exhaustive in that it covers all the data. So how do we determine how wide each interval should be? Well, first, we need the range of the data. The range is the smallest number subtracted from the largest number. To easily see that, we can sort our data. To sort, we need to click on Data at the top. Now we want to highlight all of our data, including our column headers. Click on Sort. We want to sort by age, and we want it to be smallest to largest. Note that My Data Has Headers is checked, so that means it will not include the column titles. Click OK when you're done. Now our data is sorted by age. We can see that Roosevelt was the youngest at 42, and that Ronald Reagan was the oldest at 69. This is the age they became president. For the range then, we have 69 minus 42, which is 27. So to determine the size of each class, we should just divide the range by the number of classes. So 27 divided by 5 is 5.4. It's awkward to have decimals in classes, so let's just round up to the closest whole number, which is 6. So we can create a column for interval or class and create our classes. We'll put it right here. So our first class is going to be 40 to 46. Our second class will start at 47 because it has to be higher than 46. 47 plus 6 is 53. 53, of course, the next one starts at 54. 54 plus 6 is 60. 61 plus 6 is 67. And 68 plus 6 is 74. So now we have our 5 classes. Next, we're going to fill in our frequencies. We can count it manually, but it would be very prone to error. Let's use some functions to let Excel calculate it for us. In order to do that, we have to create one extra column, and that is the upper limit column. The upper limit is the highest number in each class. So for our first class, the upper limit is 46. For our second, it's 53. Third, it's 60, and then 67 for our fourth, and 74 for our fifth. So of course we want the frequencies for all 5 classes, and so we're going to highlight where we want the data to go. Now we're going to use a function. I'm going to click up here in the function area, and in order to use a function, you enter an equal sign to start. And then you start typing in the name of the function. We want frequency, so I'm going to start typing in the word frequency. Now you can see that it comes up on its own, so we can click right here on that function. Right here you can see an open parentheses, and then it says data array and bins array. Data array refers to our data, which is the age data. So we need to highlight our age data, not highlighting our column title. Okay, so we have all of the ages. Then we're going to place a comma right here, and then it wants us to give them the bins array. Now the bins array is our upper limit, which we made right here. So we're going to highlight these 5 numbers as our upper limit, called bins array in Excel. And then we're going to close our parentheses. Now listen carefully and watch. If you want all the frequencies for all 5 classes to be calculated at once, here is what you have to do. Hold down the Control key and the Shift button, keep holding them down, and then hit Enter. Boom. There they are. So we can look at this and we can see that the biggest interval is the 3rd class, ages 54 to 60, and it's followed by ages 47 to 53, which had 10 people in it. So 26 people were present between the ages of 47 and 60. Now let's move to the relative frequency column. Relative frequency is what percentage of each interval or classes is of the total. To get a percentage, we just need to divide the number in each interval or class by the total number of our data set. And so the total number is how many presidents we have had. So how many presidents? We could count them up by hand, but that is prone to error. So we can use a function to sum this up. Before we do that, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. So I'm highlighting this line, and I'm going to go over here to border, and I'm going to add a bottom border. And then I'm going to highlight our column titles, and I'm going to add a bottom border to that too. That just makes it look a little bit nicer. Right here, I'm going to put the sum of this column. So I've clicked here, go back up to the function bar, type in an equal, and the function that we want is called sum. So click on sum, and it wants us to highlight the data, close a parentheses, and hit enter. And we got 38. So there were 38 presidents. So in order to get the relative frequency, all we have to do is divide this number, the numbers here, by the total. So this isn't really a function, it's just a mathematical formula, but we still use the function bar. So we're going to type in an equal. We're going to put in, we want what's in this column, and we want to divide it by what's in this column. So we hit enter, and we get, that's 0.10, so that's approximately 11%. And if we grab this little end and pull it down, it should calculate it for each one here. oh, it looks like we've divided by 0. What's happened here? So if we go look here, we see G19, G20, G21. So what it's doing is, when we pulled it down, it changed the top of the formula so it would get each one of these, which we wanted it to do, but it also changed the bottom, which we didn't want it to do. So in order to solve this problem, we can do one of two things. We can go back here, click on the first cell of our frequency, hit divide, and just select 38. Of course, we get the same thing, and then when we pull it down in this corner, it will calculate it correctly. The other thing we can do is click on this cell, divide by our total, but right here between the G, which is our column, and the cell number, which is 18, we're going to put a $sign. And what the $sign does is it tells Excel that this cell number is a constant and we don't want that denominator changing. So now we'll hit enter. Now when we pull that down, you see it calculates it correctly. So now if we were to sum all of this up, we would get 100%. But it's not in a percent format. So if we highlight here, we want to format this so it looks like a percent. We go up here to where the formatting is, which is under General. We're under the Home tab, and we click on percent. Now, depending on what version of Excel you have, you might have to click this little arrow and select percentage here in the category and click OK. So if we were to sum all of this up, we should get 100%. So let's see if we do. Type in our equal sign, type in sum, and then highlight all of our percentages, close the parentheses, and we got 100%. Yay. So that is our relative frequencies. So this frequency is 11% of the total data set. The second class, 47 to 53, those ages, is actually 26%. And of course, this is the largest class, which is 42%, almost half. So it's interesting to see that, let's see, 68% of all the presidents of the United States started their presidency between ages 47 and 60. Another thing I ask you to do is create a histogram. Now, according to your book, a histogram is used for quantitative variables as opposed to bar graphs, which are used for categorical variables. Categorical variables are like gender or political party. Histograms are useful because it allows us to see the shape of the frequency values. So what we want to do is create a histogram of our age frequency table. So we're going to highlight this data because this is what we want to create the chart. We're going to go up here to Insert, and then we see all these different kinds of charts. We want a column chart, and we're under here under the 2D. We're just going to pick the first one, and there it is. We can see a chart, but we're not done. Based on what the book told us, we know that a histogram, in comparison with a bar chart, does not have the spaces between the bars. So this is really a bar chart, and that's not what we want. We want a histogram. So we got to fix our chart. So if we click on any one of these, you'll notice now they're all highlighted. So if we right click and go to Format Data Series, we'll see right here in our series options we've got gap width. No gap is on one one end and large gaps on another end. So of course we want no gap. So we move the slider down to 0%. You can see right here that we now have no gaps, but it looks sort of like a giant blue blob. So we want to go over here to border color, and we want solid line, and we can make a black line. You can have any color line you want, but it should be dark. And then that, you can see a little bit of a line, but we can also go to border styles and we can make our line a little bigger, thicker. So then it'll be easy to see. And then we can just click close. So now you can see right here there's no gaps, and we can see where the bars start and end. But we're still not done yet. Down here we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This represents our classes, but it would be sure nice to have this data. So in order to do that, we can format our chart some more. So we're going to click down here. Takes a second sometimes. If we click on this x-axis down here, we want all of this horizontal data highlighted. Again, we're going to right click and we're going to select data. We want to edit the horizontal category axis labels. So click on edit, and now what we want to do is right here we just highlight our classes and click OK. So now at the bottom you can see our classes. And we can move this chart maybe a little bit further down. We can make it a little bit smaller too if we want. Now I would just delete this series thing. That gives the data a little more chance to spread out. And really our last thing we need to do is put some titles on our table and our histogram. So going back to our frequency table, we'll just call this table 1. Frequency table of presidents' ages. Now that looks kind of bad, so if we highlight all of these rows, or rather columns across, we can go up here and then select merge and center, and we can maybe bold that, and that looks a little bit nicer. We can do the same thing for our histogram. You don't want just things sitting around here and not know what they are. Labeling and titling thing is very helpful. Of course, this is not a table, it's a chart. But any kind of research or papers you write, you don't call it a chart, you call it a figure. So this is actually a figure. So this is figure 1. Figure 1, colon, histogram of presidents' ages. So we'll do the same thing. We'll highlight all of these columns across, go to merge and center, and bold it. So now what we've done is we've created a frequency table and histogram of the variable age.